Air Conception Tornado 280 review. A lot of people have asked for this video. There was a ton of excitement around it, say January. It's mid-March as I make this. And then Air Conception stopped working with Aviator. They kind of have no marketing arm now, and I feel like it's dropped off people's radar by a lot. But it's still out there, and there's still people who wonder, like, hey, how is that motor? This is my attempt to give you a nice, fast-paced, informative video about it. Super quick about me. I'm about a 400-hour pilot. A typical flight for me on this thing is I launch, I go like 7 miles away to my favorite field. I do acro run after acro run after acro run, wingovers, tumbles, backfly, stalls, asymmetric spirals, dynamic sets, asymmetric sets, regular sets, and more stuff coming. That's what I do on this motor. It's a good fit for me, mostly. There are some things that I would change about it, and we'll cover the pros and cons. So, I have notes, so I do a good job. Starting. So, it's E-Start. E-Start is a super big deal for me, maybe more so than it is for you. Most people just start their motor and fly it. I turn my motor off for every acro run. So a normal flight might be 5 starts for me. I also make YouTube videos, and I tend to turn my motor off every time I talk to you guys so that I can get better audio. If it's one of those days, I might do 10 starts per flight. And that just means it's like E-Start to me is practically a must-have feature. Pull start, like it sucks in comparison if you're going to start 5-10 times a flight. I also have a Scout with a Moster 185. We have it all tuned up now, and it starts on the 3rd pull, maybe. But in flight, it actually pulls really easily. On the ground, when it's cold, it's just really hard to pull. I'm getting off topic a little bit, but the experience of a warm start and a cold start is so vastly different. I don't know why it's such a unicorn, but anyway, E-Start, I don't think I'll buy a motor without it again, but I'm a special snowflake in how many starts I do. Launching. So a couple things make launching easy. 3 that I have in my head. One is the lean back angle. If you have a motor, like the Scout for example, that asks for a bigger lean back to make the prop go straight, so for the prop to do this on the Scout, your body's doing this. For the prop to go vertical on some other motors, including the Air Conceptions, at least the race frames, then you can sort of stand upright pretty much, and the prop's upright pretty much, and it makes for an easier launch. At this point, like I'm a 400-hour pilot, so I can launch a Scout crate. Like it's fine. But for a brand new pilot, that would be something that they have to adjust to, something they need to know going into it, etc. The other thing, lightweight and thrust make it easy to launch. And reliability matters too. Here's what a paramotor does at the end of the day. Sometimes I hear it's just the thrust, it's just the thrust. And that's the line that you would say if you're selling shitty paramotors. That's the truth of it. It's a little more. It's your reserve mounting system. It's your torque compensation. And there's some safety involved in that. We'll talk about that too. And then of course the thrust, right? So if you have a lousy paramotor that all it does is push forward, and that's what you'd say. Torque compensation. So let's talk about that. Do you see how the arms on this are both tilted to the left? They're tipped over. I'm not sure how obvious it is to you, but that is the torque compensation technique used on most motors. On most motors, either the arm has a pretty complex curve that is a big gooseneck and also tilting to the left, or they have a pretty straight arm like the Scout has. Do you see how that's a straight arm with no torque compensation in the arm? But they mount the carabiner off to the side, like there. Scout does something different with these torque compensation spars. This is about the Tornado. So that's how it does it. And what this does is it makes you kind of constantly lean to your left, like it does a constant left weight shift, and the motor torques to the right. So at cruise, they kind of match. And that actually works really well. So I give it a thumbs up for that. At idle, it tilts to the left a little bit. And at full throttle, it tilts to the right, because This is meant to match like a specific spot on like the power curve of your propeller. It doesn't match everywhere. And when I was a new pilot, like if you see my 50-hour nitro review, I'm like, what are people talking about with this torque compensation? Like, I don't even get it, why they make such a big deal. It's the 17th most important thing to me. And now that I have a more finely calibrated butt and I feel the torque in a way that I didn't before, like I can get it. And I've added these, I think they're called louvers. I've heard that just means expensive plastic in French. And what they do is when the propeller sucks air past them, it adds more, weight shift to the left, right? So it's not based on your airspeed, like how fast you're traveling through the air. It's based on your prop speed. So it adds more shift when the prop is faster and no shift when the prop is not moving. That's what that does, which, by the way, is how the Scout works too. How do they work? They help. They help. I found that the Tornado has so much power that the shift to the right was more than I wanted. So I added those louvers, and now it's back in Woody's happy zone. It was really nicely dialed in for the nitro. I don't think you can dial in weight shift on just the arms for a motor as powerful as the Tornado 270cc. It's just that there isn't one spot in the torque comp world that's going to fit it. That's why I added the louvers. Real quick, assembly. I find assembly on this, I'll give it like a 5 out of 10. The 10 out of 10 assembly motors are the ones that are built with 4 quadrants on the cage. The flat top is that way, Fresh Breezes are that way, the Angel's that way. I think a lot of PAP motors are like that. This is better for traveling, like airline traveling if you wanted to do something like that, and that this whole hoop folds up into the size of like half a prop. Like the whole thing folds up and you just have like one of these rings. I don't disassemble my motors. I hardly ever do. When I travel, I put it in the back of my truck, and most of the time though I just launch from my yard, and assembly's not a big deal to me. But it's a choice you make, and I find that amongst paramotors, it's really you're choosing between the 2 designs and not between the paramotors. I don't think a Parajet assembles much easier than an Air Conception or an Impulse or whatever. Like if it's the kind where the hoop folds up small, it's like a 4 out of 10 on assembly, but a 10 out of 10 on packing. If it's the kind where they come off in quadrants, it's a 10 out of 10 on assembly, but a 1 out of 10 on packing size. So you can choose what's important to you. Travel durability. All right, let's talk about that. This one is titanium. Titanium is my favorite material. There aren't that many titanium paramotors, but gosh, I love titanium on a paramotor. People say it's super strong. Those people are kind of right. It is stronger than aluminum, I think, but close enough that I think that most crashes that bend aluminum would also bend titanium. That's what I think. It is stronger than carbon fiber, but again, I think most crashes that would actually break carbon fiber would bend aluminum too. Titanium's magic trick is bending back. If you bend aluminum more than just a little bit, you're screwed. Like you got to replace that part, maybe have it welded and then painted again in a mismatched color with that mark of shame that never goes away. On titanium, it bends back and it's beautiful. You can't tell. It's everything you want it to be. A couple clamps, some wood blocks, bend, be careful. And titanium is the best paramotor building material. Like I'm at the Steven Crowder's table. Prove me wrong. Change my mind. Titanium is the best there is. Done. That's what I think. Because it's so repairable, and it's light and it's strong, but it's really the repairability that separates it from the other ones. And then also a thing about titanium I like, this is also true with PAP steel, it doesn't scratch. Like there's no concept of a scratch on unpainted titanium. There's like brick walls, my house has brick on the outside. If I rub it on that, it's not a problem. If I do the same thing with carbon fiber or painted aluminum, like it's there forever. That's the new look. With unpainted titanium, and I'm guessing PAP's stainless steel, then there's no scratch. Like a scratch isn't a thing that happens. It's just it's not a thing. All right, comfortable. So The Scout has a reputation for being super comfortable, and it is, like, it's comfortable. To me, the harness could be longer, closer to my knees. I find this to be really comfortable. It's smooth. The Nitro has a reputation for vibrating. Vibrating is not important to me. I never found the vibration on the Nitro to be an issue as a pilot. It does vibrate more than the Moster, but like it's my 30th most important thing in a paramotor. Like, smooth's nice, but I didn't care about vibration. But as a YouTuber, I did, because I felt like, you know, it was like talking through a fan a little bit, and you know, so that aspect of the Nitro, I didn't like. But as a pilot, as a regular person, the vibration didn't matter. The Tornado vibrates less than the Moster, but there's a catch. The Tornado has a 3-blade prop. If you put a 3-blade prop on the Moster, I'm guessing it's just as smooth as the Tornado. I haven't done it, but they're so close. I think the difference is just the prop. That's my guess. But if you think the Tornado vibrates like the Nitro, then you're off track. It doesn't. That's not a thing. Weight shift. All right. I read just recently an instructor whose opinion I really value was saying that he felt like the air conception frames have the best weight shift he's ever felt. And I know that he's flown a Scout too. They're close to me, but I think the Scout might weight shift even better than the air conception. But in either case, they're at the top of their game. So, you know, once you get to the point where you're like leaning into turns and getting that extra oomph by weight shifting, then the air conceptions are better than most, I'm told. I think I've flown 10 paramotors, but only 7 different ones. I've flown 3 different Tornadoes and 2 different Scouts. So just 7 paramotors, that is my sort of body of experience. And they weight shift really well, and they torque compensate pretty well. It's good. Power. So all power does is provide lift. If you're new to paramotoring and you think it takes you faster or something, no. Power just provides lift. I like a powerful motor. The reason is, one, I'm about 200 pounds. I tend to get a little less than 200 in the summer, a little more than 200 in the winter, but I like a powerful motor. A lot of it has to do with acro runs. You know, if I had a weak motor and my objective is to just go from 3,000 feet to 1,000, back up, back down, back up, back down, power is great for that. The Moster 185 has plenty of power. It has plenty of power. If you weigh less than like 300, you know, maybe 275, like I'm getting into weights I'm not that familiar with, but the Moster 185 is good for most people. It really is. The Tornado 280 is almost too much sometimes. There are times, like, I don't hold full throttle all that often. You lean back in a way that's almost frightening, and if you fly wings that oscillate, my newer acro wing does, and my freeride, it can oscillate, so you're leaning back and things are swinging and the world is crazy. 3/4 power is a happier place than full throttle because it has so much. On the other hand, full throttle is nice on launch. Man, you know, like sometimes, like maybe every 10th or 20th launch, I hit, you know, like I want that full power to kind of like just get me out of a stumble or who knows what. Foot dragging is a fun thing to do. You're just going along the field, dragging your feet. It's a blast. And when you do it, you're just constantly managing your altitude, right? Up and down, all these little corrections. And every once in a while, you find yourself needing a lift. You can jack the brakes and that'll get you up, but you only have so much brakes. You only have so much flare authority and you can run out. When you have a Tornado, it's like a get out of jail free card. Like, whoa, you know, did you just hit some sink? Did the ground just rise and you didn't, like, did something go unexpected and you suddenly need a little lift? It's a get out of jail free card, which is really nice. The 185, also good. It's just the 280 is a different thing than the 185. It is. Probably more than you need, but it is, I mean, it has extra power. It has extra, like, that's it. That's my favorite, just came to me now. It has extra power, more than you need. And every once in a while, it's nice to have that. Whether it be a launch you're semi-fouling up, or a foot drag that you semi-fouled up, or it can be that get out of jail free card. And for going from 1,000 to 3,000, you know, I actually use 3/4 throttle, I think, more often than full throttle, and that's plenty. It's plenty. It's a ton of power. So that's my thought on it. This weighs 49 pounds with an electronic start and a clutch. That would make this a lightweight motor. Mine's kind of midweight because I put 2 reserves on it, but it starts lightweight. If I started with a midweight motor and put 2 reserves on it, it might creep into heavyweight. Light is nice. It's nice for when you're clipping in. It's nice for when you're walking to your wing. It's nice for when you're launching. If you fly midday, sometimes you're coming in for your landing and then boom, it drops you. The last 8 feet. You flare hard and you do what you can, but you hit sink on landing. And I'd rather hit sink with a 49-pound motor than a 59-pound motor. It's nice. My friend calls it an 80% bad landing is jumping off like the 2nd or 3rd step on the stairs. And just think about the different weights and how that would impact you, and that'll give you a vibe for what you're dealing with. Light is really nice. It comes with something of a cost, and that's in fit and finish. It's correlation, but the motors with the nicest fit and finish tend to weigh a little more. The gravity comes to mind, the virus comes to mind. They just cross every T and dot every I. Every line on it has a place where it's supposed to go. The Air Conception Tornado, for example, how do you mount the battery for the E-Start? They give you a bag and some Velcro and tell you to go figure it out. If you ever have to replace the relay, it's riveted in there. Look, rivets are light, but that's not maintainable. You couldn't thread it and screw it. It's riveted. All the electrical wires, let me show you. The wiring back here, it's just kind of held in place with a bunch of zip ties and stuff. Not sure how well that's coming on camera. But, part of how they get their lightweight, in my opinion, is by kind of not finishing it. PAP puts their stuff in a beautiful weather-sealed box. It's nice. So there's a spectrum on fit and finish that kind of has the zip-tied lightweight side and the really well done not as light side. And when it comes to Air Conception, they err on the side of lightweight every time they can. And you can make your own priorities. I'm not selling paramotors, I'm just informing you. One thing I really value in a paramotor that perhaps is not super important to you is dual reserves. So these reserves go, I have one here, and I have one here. I have 2 reserves because although I've never thrown a reserve in combat, unintentionally, I see my flying style as a guy who might throw a reserve someday, so be prepared. And these are nice. It's mounted on either side. It's supposed to be there. I don't have to decide whether to put my reserve on like a front mount guy could. It's just always there. It's always ready. It goes up here through this tube, and then it mounts to the harness here on both sides, right? It's there, and it's under here too. This thing is well designed for dual reserves, and that's something that matters to me. You are more likely to fly with one reserve, and one of these sides would be a pocket instead of a reserve. Another thing that matters to me that it does wrong, swing arm mount. I actually am low-grade angry just thinking about it. I've flown between the Nitro and the Air Conception about 300 hours on this style of mount, and it's held up great. I've never had a problem. And by the way, every flight I'm doing some sort of acro, big wing overs. I think I do a sat every time I go in the air, multiple sats typically, and these have never shown any sign of wear for me. But I'm still not happy. I see what PAP does. I see what Scout's done, which has flaws. I see what Fly Products does, which is probably my favorite one, but it's aluminum. They're nice. This sits on this bolt, and I don't think that is right if you're doing the kind of flying that I do. I wish it was better. The Scouts, by comparison, my God. I can't take it off because it's on the spar. When I said it has flaws, that's what I'm talking about. You can't take this swing arm off without taking the whole gosh darn kit and caboodle apart. But under this is a mount that is so strong that No human could break it doing anything. Like don't worry about it. And Fly Products does something like that. This guy just sits on that bolt. That's it. That's what you get. And you know, air conception people, if you see this, I hate this about your motors. For the kind of flying I do, if this ever breaks, you're going to be YouTube famous. So that's a thing. I wish that they did this, you know, grown-up style like Pap does. Even Parajets is pretty good. Fly Products is outstanding. Scouts is outstanding, except that I don't like it sitting on a spar because I can't get to it. But this I think is maybe the worst design. I think Black Hawk might do this too. It's not like it's unheard of and it doesn't fail, but not good for my opinion. That's my take on it. I have notes, and I'm glad I have them. I'm going to talk about reliability and fuel consumption. Reliability. So it's only a 50-hour motor, and you're not supposed to have many problems with 50 hours. It's also a new motor, so there aren't like thousands of them out there in a field to get a broad feedback. I feel like if there's a central takeaway I have on the Tornado with regards to reliability, it's we'll see. People have a kind of Stockholm syndrome on their paramotors, and they love them so much they forgive them for what they actually do. And I might be the same. The issue I've had with the Tornado so far is they shipped it with this Denso spark plug and a spark plug boot that I think were incompatible. I've pulled a spark plug boot off a spark plug maybe like 200 or 300 times lifetime. I feel like it's a thing I know how to do, right? It's not that hard. I couldn't get it off. And I'm pulling it and I'm pulling it and I can feel the inside bending, so I back off and eventually I pulled it off and I knew I was mangling that wire inside the spark plug boot. Like there was no other way. I was like, I guess I'll just have to bend this back afterwards. So I did, poorly. Something about bending a spring back to the way it used to be is just really hard. Like you can't, once a spring is bent, like it's never a good spring again, right? And that's what I was dealing with. So I put it back on and I saw a spark. I consider myself a okay mechanic, you know, not a pro, but not like someone who's not a mechanic. And I saw a spark, so I was like, all right, we're good. I wasn't good enough to spot weak spark. I just spot spark or no spark. And what I saw was weak spark. And it ran poorly and it scared me. And I talked to the guys at Aviator PPG, and they give like top-notch support. That's one of the things. They're top-of-the-line support. So they said, Woody, put it in a box, ship it to us. We'll pay shipping both ways. We want to make this thing great. They did, and they put on a different spark plug boot from AutoZone. Well, unbeknownst to us, hard plastic boots don't handle the vibration of a single cylinder two-stroke, and that hard AutoZone boot broke like 3 times. So I've actually had like 4 motor outs, 3 of them on aftermarket AutoZone spark plug boots. I'll let the viewer decide if that's Air Conception's fault or not. You know, like I don't know. And then one of them on the stock boot, because it came with a plug where the boot couldn't be removed. So at Aviator, eventually they replaced the whole coil, which gave me a brand new boot. And then we put in the spark plug that we all use, the like BRE9ES and 10ES. And now I haven't had a problem since. Now I've gone the last like 42 hours without an issue. So that's my issue so far with the Tornado. The boot and plug were incompatible, according to me, that Denso plug. Outside of that, it's been wonderful. There was a time when it was kind of like sputtering, and I went like 30 hours on the same plug. I should have swapped it out. And maybe I'm Stockholm syndroming it, but I don't blame the motor for that. You know, if you run too many hours in the same plug, that's a symptom that you can get. Fuel consumption. My flying style burns a lot of fuel. I think I usually burn like 6 liters an hour, maybe even 6.5, which is a lot. But what I do is I just go to a 3,000 feet, acro down, back to 3,000, acro down. The best I've done is 4 liters an hour on a very efficient free flight wing. I think if I were to like just say how many liters an hour you'll burn, 4.5 or 5, maybe 5. And that's more than you'll burn on a 185. That's just, think of it as a big V8 in a car. It has more than enough power, but she's thirsty. And I actually don't care very much about the fuel burn rate. You know, most of my flights are an hour. I think I could maybe get 2 on like a cross country. Burn rate isn't the issue. What does matter to me is I make it weigh like 3 pounds more for that extra half a gallon of fuel. But I thought I'd mention it because I think people are curious. 5.5 liters, 5 liters an hour, something like that is what you can expect to burn. Whereas on the 185, I would tell you 4 to 4.5. So another liter per hour burnt. And I think that's it. I'll try to watch the comments and yeah, that's my review on the 280. All right, same day, a few hours later, about to go send it. That's not cool to say anymore, but oh well. All right, I thought I'd show you guys this. This is my tie-in system. Hopefully I'm getting this okay. This T-Rain thing, I think it's for like janitors' keychains. Is maybe the market they serve and some hikers and such. I like it because not only does it work in this action, which is okay, but you can lock it at a fixed length. And then this is a little loop I got off Amazon. Got both these off Amazon. And I can do that. And then I put this here on the Velcro. And that's sort of my flight computer. So if it were to fall, and it has fallen before, it hangs on this and can't reach the prop. All right, it's been 2 or 3 days since the last time I started this, 2 days I think, and probably 2 or 3 weeks since the last time I charged the battery. This is what the e-start is like. All right, so I hardly ever do reverse launches because usually if it's more than like 5 miles an hour in my yard, it's more than 30 up high. But according to the forecast, that's not the case today, so we'll try and do a reverse. You know what? I'm like 90% sure I'm clipped in right, and 90% sure is cool in a lot of things, but not in aviation stuff. So I'm going to clip in again. Future Woody here. I left that in thinking that at some point, those of you who fly these things too are going to be in that same position. You'll be 90% sure that there's no friction knot in your line. Or you'll be 90% sure that you heard it click when you did your leg strap. Or you'll be 90% sure that you clipped in right. And you'll say, you know what? 90% in aviation doesn't cut it. I'm going to double check this. Everybody has a superpower. Mine is that if I clip in reverse, I can kill wind. All right, let's give this a go. Up we go, like an elevator. Do you see how crazy this is? I'm not sure if I'll be able to capture this on camera, but what I want to demonstrate is how I lean back. Do you see how these risers are kind of straight up compared to the horizon? Heck, they should be about straight up. I'm going to hit the throttle, and you're going to see me go like, wah! And I'll try and talk at the same time. This is ridiculous. Even when I like settle in and find my eventual lean back, this is not what normal motors look like. I feel like I'm almost laying on my back, kinda. That effect is extra strong on slower wings. This is an acro wing. It's a fast acro wing, but a fast acro wing compared to a lot of paramotor wings is pretty slow. And my free flight wing, which is really slow too. It's a Swift 4, but it's a 28, and I just feel like I'm laying on my back, going straight up in the air. Like, exaggerating, it's hyperbole, but work with me. The thrust on this it's a lot. I remember I was like at 35 hours, I got used to it at full throttle.
That's what I told myself. But the truth is, I'm still not 100% used to it. You know, sometimes when I'm laying on my back and I'm flying a wing that oscillates, like this one or the free ride, it's just like, whoa, you know, Woody, why don't you back off on the throttle a little bit and have a nicer experience? So that's a thing. But if you want to gain altitude, it's really nice. Like, if you probably can't see that field over there, but that's a place I do acro a lot. And sometimes I'll get to it and be like, you know, I wish I was 500 feet higher, and then bam, you can get 500 feet higher, which is cool. All right, we're just gonna go casual on this run, nothing too crazy, but you know, maybe get upside down a little bit. Regular set, good times. Let's get out of that a little bit. Do some asymmetric spiral to a reversal, good times. Some wing overs. Let's try to nail the 180 each time. It's a little more than 180. The really pro guys don't go 180, they go like 270. But that's not us, right? Chill. So that's what I like to do. I saw a video recently that compared acro to masturbation for a 17-year-old, and it said that you know, once you discover it and get a knack for it, it's all you think about and all you want to do. And I see the comparison. And this is why I like E-Start. All right, so I'm not doing any tail slides tonight because the winds aloft are so high. I'm not sure I could stay in the box if I had to, and just getting to it was getting to be a chore. So I think I'll just do a tumble and, I don't know, call it a day. We'll have a good time. Checking the camera. Over we go. Over we go. That could have been bigger. That's a biggie. There we go. Woo-hoo. Fun time on the tumbles. Fun time on the wing overs. Wing overs are tricky when you get really big. You have to use as little outside brake as you can to keep the energy, but enough outside brake so you don't take a deflation. Better too much than not enough if you're learning, but it's just a thing I'm talking about. Good times. E-Start. Oh. All right, let's see if we can do a tail slide. It's my worst move, but hopefully I catch it, get into the tail slide, and then exit. So back, whoa, catch it, get into the tail slide. Nice, nice. That was beautiful, Woody. That was exactly what you try to do. Way over the wing. Let's hog this thing. Good job, Woody. I'm still really high, 1,600 feet. I'm just kind of out of the box. I'm like near a road or something, so you can see how I'm drifting. Anyway, good times. All right. So there it is. I've done that particular flight. Launch out of my yard, fly around, practice my acro and land like 800 times now, maybe. I don't count flights, I count hours. And that's how I like to enjoy paramotors. This thing would be perfect with just a couple little changes. I wish that this was really built up hardcore. I kind of wish these leading edges were rounded. And it'd be extra cool if these spars were dynamic torque compensating like the Scout. But for the most part, this has been a good fit for me. I like it a lot. And outside of the spark plug boot thing, 50 hours with really no trouble. So I'm happy about that. Oh yeah, I hope you liked the video. I like making it. If you made it this far, drop a like. It's good for my ego.